think that when you write your movie, you have to really kind of dedicate what star you want, who your movie's really about. And if it's a buddy picture, there's still always one leader in a buddy picture. You have to generate an interest, and your character needs to be, you know, in a variety of age range from 30 to 35 or whatever. And I think the more expandable your character is, the better choices you have in hiring many different types of actors. I would advise you to get it to maybe 4 or 5 people to read that you trust, and people that will be honest with you and will tell you what they feel, because everybody's going to have a feeling on your movie, and no matter where you submit it, how often you submit it, everybody's going to have, oh, if you only do this, if you only do that, this and that, and you could write the rest of your life one movie if you listen to everybody's feelings. And I think that you need to trust a few people and go with those few people, preferably one that's in development or one that's in the business, a friend that's going to be honest, maybe somebody that's a cinematographer or somebody else that's in the business that has an eye for what you're trying to do. Most of the time, a writer, no matter how he tries to divorce himself from his project, he's given birth to this project, and his whole life is, in a sense, plastered onto that paper, because whether it's characters that he's familiar with or he's done a lot of research, what makes a script unique is that individual's uniqueness that has written the script. Because everybody has basically the same ideas. It's all in the way that you as a unique person tell your idea. You can register at the Writers Guild, which I would suggest everyone do. I don't think you should even begin to talk about your script until it's at least registered. I think you could copyright it. Not everybody copyrights their scripts, but it's a good process to copyright the script. My advice for any new writer is always to establish a paper trail. A paper trail is so vitally important. If you're going to even pitch it and you have your pass from the studio, keep it. When you pitch your idea or have a meeting, write them a thank you letter. Or if they want pages, which is technically illegal for a Writers Guild to leave, but it's a catch-22. If you don't leave the papers, then you have to rely on the executive to take the notes and then go back to his boss and repitch it. If you leave the notes, then they will have more of what you want them to say when they repitch it. And development people hear, you know, hundreds of pitches, so within 3 days they have forgotten your pitch if they're not meeting with their boss to the end. My advice would be to say that you have your notes, and my agent will fax over my notes to you when I clean them up. That way you already have a paper trail. If you don't have an agent, then you fax them over or send them over so you have a copy or a record. In the beginning, a lot of young writers, I feel, are tied to their work and don't want changes, but once you sell something and once you get money and somebody pays you for it, then they own it. And you have the leeway if you're hired. It goes in many different ways, whether you are in development, you pitch an idea and then you sell it. If you pitch an idea and you sell it, then it's a whole different ball game, because you're in a room with 5 or 6 different executives the whole time, and you're developing an outline, you're changing the outline. You might get 4 notes on a page from 4 different people, and you have to figure out, because each note's going to change your script. Always in a good script, you change one thing, everything changes. Usually if somebody sells an idea, they sell the idea and they want the writer to write it. They want that person to write it. There's not too many people that are just idea people that go around selling ideas and a writer's attached. That usually really doesn't happen very often. Me personally, when I sell a pilot, yes, I do get a royalty. I get a creative buy credit, and that's all in negotiation through your attorney, as Julia will talk about. But and it changes. If I get sole credit, I get this amount of money. If I have to share credit, I get this month, and my creative payment can be knocked down. Now, one time in a deal, my agent, I said, "What did we get on this pilot? How better did we do my deal?" And he goes, "Well, one word, and I'm blanking on the word now. Oh yes," he said, "retroactive." And I said, "Well, what are you talking about? Retroactive is the only word that's in this?" And he says, "Yeah." And he says, "So my royalty for the pilot, I got $3,000 per show. The third year I got $5,000. The fifth year it went up to $8,000." And he said the word retroactive means once you jump, all your other shows get bumped up to that 8,000. And I went, "Oh. That's a pretty good word, retroactive." I think we did a much better deal, because at first I was getting more money, but at least I had a potential of a lot more money. A lot of times when you have your first script, sometimes a studio will want to buy it outright, and then they're going to change it. Like now, they wanted to give me $150,000 for the movie. Now they wanted to completely change my script. Okay, so I came up with this idea, and my attorneys thought it was a pretty good idea, and we did it. And since then, what I said is, I won't sell you my script. You can option my script. I will rewrite a new script for you. You will own that new script. And because you're going to destroy this script that I love to death, and if it doesn't work, which 90% of the time it's not going to work, I'll be able to keep my own script and still have it. Now, that one little thing in my clause has already given me $200,000 more dollars to my name, because I have sold this script 4 more times. He wrote all the Wolfman movies. He wrote a lot of horror movies in the beginning of his career. And he says, you've got to worry about what you say in a meeting, because even if you're making a joke, they might take you seriously. And they were talking to him about doing a new Wolfman movie and what could they do, and so he said, why don't we have Wolfman meet Frankenstein, and he expected to get a big laugh, and nobody laughed, and all the executives looked around at each other and said, wow, marvelous idea, let's do it. And he said, I had to write this movie, it was supposed to be a joke.
At the time I read, I was just 22 years old, fresh out of film school. I wasn't even getting paid. And I was essentially the one making decisions as to whether these scripts, which somebody somewhere had put lots of time and effort, blood, sweat, and tears into doing, should go on up the ladder to an assistant agent or assistant producer or something like that. So I learned early on not to have a whole lot of faith of getting my script to the right people right off the bat, when I know that there's probably a lot of places that it's some unpaid 22-year-old fresh out of film school who's taking a look at your pride and joy and making a decision as to whether anybody else sees it.
The Writers Guild has guidelines, and you can call the credits department at the Writers Guild, and they'll send you materials that sort of outline the criteria for getting or not getting a screenwriter credit on a film, and on television as well. And basically there's a process that you need to follow if you think that you're entitled to some sort of credit and you want to arbitrate for it. In some cases there's an automatic arbitration. I believe it's if a director is arbitrating for a credit, it automatically goes into arbitration. And then the rest of the criteria are kind of, there are things like characters, development, sort of mamby-pamby kind of criteria. And it's all based on the actual screenplay. So that goes back to creating the paper trail and making sure that you document everything in all of your work.